2, 3. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 312 of This Uncanny Earth. As always, I am your host, Robert Solomon, and with me are my colleagues, Spider and Steven, Deadpool Head 888. Welcome, gentlemen. How are we doing tonight?
I'm here.
Okay, good. How are we feeling, Spider? Your absence was noticed last week.
Yeah, it's been up and down. I've gone from one thing to another thing to another thing. That's all basically one long line of something or other.
Next,
Right now,
you're gonna get the avian bird flu going around.
who knows? I started off with just a cold, and that turned into like something that was the flu and sinus
eggs.
infection, and
man.
then that got into my inner ear. So now I've got the what is the word for it?
Ear flu.
I keep thinking vigorous, but it's not vigorous. It's the something or other. I'm lightheaded and I got stomach nausea.
Is your equilibrium off?
That's what it is. It's something with
There
that.
we go.
It's and that because once that goes away, I'm sure I'll be perfect, or my leg will break or something. It's just out of nowhere.
Don't jinx
I've got a
it.
broken leg.
Jinx
Oh,
it.
the gangrene.
I got a broken leg.
No.
My brother's gangrene. We got a Civil War. You got to bite down on a piece of wood while we give you Jack Daniels to drink.
I mean, that's not really the worst of what could happen, but
you listen. Out of all my friends, I think you would have survived the Civil War the best.
As long as the bourbon holds out, I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you'd have been fine. Steven, how are you doing this week?
I'm all right. Looking forward to getting my own place.
Good. Glad to hear it. That'll be... I know you've been talking about that for a while, so that's good stuff. Me personally, I've finally done it. Yes, I know. Yep. After, what seemed like forever.
That Jeopardy theme was just going on and on and on.
Yeah, sure was. So I am starting my religion introspection channel, Robert the Theologian. You can find me on YouTube. I don't have anything up yet. I just recorded last night.
Post the link to the people in the chat here. Post the link.
Steven, that is your job. You
that's
are
what I'm doing right now.
Thank you, sir. I haven't got anything up yet. I started the first video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read it. Read the chapter. I'm going to go chapter by chapter through each book of the Bible, and then we are going to...
I thought it was just Robert the Theologian.
It should be Robert the Theologian, yes.
Yeah, I'm having some trouble here. Is it all one word?
Yes.
Okay, because I have some trouble with This Uncanny Earth 2, and for whatever reason, it only works when I type it as The Uncanny Earth rather than this.
Because there actually is another Uncanny Earth channel on YouTube. They don't post content.
It's
I think
funny.
It's some UFO stuff.
They started after we started, and I think they were trying to scoop our name.
No, they were before us.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I felt like there was some interesting kind of not quite controversy when we first discovered it. But
because I just followed it yesterday, but now I can't find it.
I got it pulled up right now, so let me...
Okay.
I can just link it.
So I just followed it yesterday.
Here's the thing. Let's see. I can post it.
The thing is,
I do this so much for Twitch, YouTube. So it's fine. Anytime you need to put a link in, it's easy. Just youtube.com and then the
/
the @ and then your channel. Maybe backslash. Let me see. Yeah, backslash.
Yeah.
An @ and then it would be Robert, not Trobert. That is not my name. Robert.
Haha! I found it.
All right, excellent. Post it up.
Okay. Yeah,
I can write it out. I can type it
Sorry.
out. It's easier for me to type it out. Thank you.
There we
Please,
go.
by all means, subscribe. I will have content coming soon. I'm reading the chapter first, and then I will post my introspection after that because I want people to read it and sort of let it soak in. Because this is deep stuff. This is going to be some really deep stuff we're going to be covering, and there's going to be some parts that's not so beautiful that we have to understand, given the timing and the culture and the people. The Old Testament is essentially a survival manual. And when you read it from a survival manual standpoint, you understand certain things. the way things had to happen, such as Moses destroying the golden idol. Um, he did that because you don't need the people worshiping a false god. They start worshiping another god, they're going to start going into another culture. They're not going to be.
Are
It's
we
not
talking
gonna be
about the book of Ezekiel, that golden
no,
idol?
no.
Okay.
We're talking about the book of, I believe it's Exodus, Leviticus.
You saw the smile spreading across my face as you mentioned the golden idol.
No, the golden idol was. I apologize. It's been. I'm going. It's been a while
Okay.
since I've read part of that, but yeah, Moses came down from the mountain. But that was when Moses had the his face, his complexion, hair and stuff had turned like a bright white
Oh,
from
okay.
seeing God's hand, because he couldn't see the whole of God or he would die. So he just saw the hand pass by. So he comes down on that, because you'll notice the big um, thing in the Old Testament books. The Jews always wanted a physical representation of God. They couldn't just go off of faith. That was the problem. They couldn't just say, okay, we believe in God. They needed things like the cloud that came down to the mountain. They needed the Ark of the Covenant. They needed all of this. Reason being is because Adam himself and Eve herself were some of the earliest humans to have been with God. And we'll talk about things like that, especially with in regards to Cain and Abel. I just found out some really interesting information, so
Cain is the
we're going to
father of
be
murder.
bringing that up. We don't know that.
Supposedly.
Genesis 1:6 is the reason why we don't know that.
Okay.
So
You'll
you
get
might
into
just. Oh, we're gonna get into it. I'm looking
Yep.
forward to it. Anyways, before I go into it and then just
Yeah.
turn this into
Yeah.
that, I'm gonna, as soon as I get down how to do everything and upload it, I'll give you guys timetables of when content will be released. I need to. This is going to be a little bit of a loop, because I haven't done this before and I'm doing this all by myself. Not that I need help or anything. I want to learn the process myself, because then we can expand this channel
Okay.
and do really amazing things. And apologies for the mess in the corner there with the keyboard. So I'll clean that up. But tonight, coming soon to a internet near you, the release of documentation regarding the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, and the Martin Luther King assassination. If your last name starts with a K, you're in for some bad luck. But interesting enough, that was only 3 of the 4 assassinations in a short span of time in the United States. You had Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X, you had Robert F. Kennedy, and you had John F. Kennedy. So those 4 were very much the shaping of how America would become. Now, we all have our feelings on certain politicians and certain things, so we will keep that from the show. But let's get right into it. So, Robert F. Kennedy, I didn't know anything about this one. I'd heard bits and pieces. I didn't know a lot about it. JFK, I think, is probably the most popular one here, because that's the one everybody has a theory
They teach
for.
that one in school.
So much documentation that has happened between.
I got a long list for that. A long list.
But the RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, not to be confused with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who had a Senate, who's getting Senate grilled. So I tried to search it up on YouTube and it just kept showing him.
Yeah.
So then I had to go to the internet and actually read text, which was fine. I mean, it's not a big deal. So, I'm doing that. And I realized how crazy this whole thing is. And I think I have an understanding as to why he was assassinated. And I think it was very much I don't think he wasn't assassinated because of anything he was doing here, but it was because of the Arab and Israeli conflict that was going on. And I was reading for quite a while. I read about that, and then I read about the Arab-Israeli conflict. I wanted to know more about all of that going on. And so RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, much like his brother, was a liberal in a different sense than you would classify a liberal in today's society. Different, um, but supporter of a Jewish state in Palestine. To give you guys a little backstory, the Jews were essentially exiled from their home. They went wandering and they landed in Europe, and then the Zionist idea of going back home, so to speak, heading back to an ancient land that you're no longer part of, right? You've been exiled, so you don't have many historical documentation, you know what I mean, to prove that you were there at one point. Well, RFK was a supporter of this. And a gentleman by the name of Sirhan was a Palestinian who had seen violence at a young age. And his parents end up coming over to the United States. And so when they came over, they started in New York. And then they went from New York to California. Now, I'm going to give you guys some dates here. Dates are always something I got to mess with. So give me 1 second and I will pull these up. So in 1968, he gets assassinated, but this is basically due in large part to Sirhan, who pulled the trigger, supposedly. We'll get into that. But he was going up against two other Democrats, McCarthy and Herbert something. So that happens, okay, and he ends up winning he's about to win the declaration to the Democratic Party, okay, because he's fighting against two other Democrats, one who is Dump Johnson. Lyndon Baines Johnson is the president at that time, so they don't want him in anymore. So he beats both of them, and he's running, and he's at a hotel, the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, California. He's meeting with the press. He's meeting with people, congratulating everybody like we see with Trump or Harris, that kind of thing, right? Well, back then, they didn't have Secret Service protection for potential presidential candidates. You had bodyguards, or you usually just hired like you would a security firm to come and guard you. They didn't give it. And it wasn't until after his assassination where they actually started saying, okay, we need to send Secret Service with people that are going to be presidential candidates. And no, Deadpool, you cannot say you're becoming a presidential candidate to get Secret Service protection. That's not
No,
how
I
it
was just going
works.
to do that to get out of jail time.
Well, it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. Don't do it. Whatever you're doing, don't do jail. So they do that.
Knives.
And he's going through the hotel. Well, in typical conspiracy theory fashion, right? Because this is how it happens in these conspiracy theories. He's supposed to go one way, but guess what? He gets directed another way by a gentleman that didn't like him. Did not care for Kennedy at all. Didn't like him. But he was a security guard. He was hired by Kennedy, or he was hired, maybe not by Kennedy, but probably by one of Kennedy's assistants, I would wager. And so he's directing him, grabbing his wrist, because when you're this sort of when you're this sort of person, this sort of figure, right? A charismatic type of individual, you get a lot of attention. I mean, just a presidential pick, and regardless, you still get a lot of attention, right? But this is John F. Kennedy's brother. John F. Kennedy had him as an advisor, and then when he was shot, he became district attorney under Lyndon Baines Johnson. So he's already kind of a big name, so it makes sense that he would put a bid in to run for president. And this is known as the Kennedy curse because, once again, it happens. Yes.
I might be getting this confused with someone else, but didn't he go to the same college as John F. Kennedy? Didn't they go to the same college, like a family type thing?
Now that I'm not
confused.
That I'm not 100% sure of. Feel free to look that
Okay.
up if you'd like.
I'm basing that information on a TV show that was like supposed to be very historically accurate.
Ah, I don't know that personally. That'd be something
Okay.
that you would have to look into.
Okay.
Because his brother and him were on good terms, it was, it made sense for him to go out to his brother's constituency and try to grab them. Worked, but then he gets shot. Well, he's going through the kitchen and 5 shots ring out. Two in the neck, or one in the neck, two in the back. Well, some forensics say it was from behind and it came out of his neck. It didn't go in this way, it went in the other way. But then other folks say that he was shaking hands with people and turning to the left when he was shot here. It's the conspiracies behind it are very crazy. Given the political situation, much like John F. Kennedy, there was a lot of political charge there given the Cuban Missile Crisis, civil rights movements at the time. There's a lot going on with that, just like
Space
this
race.
space race.
I found it. They did
So-
go to the same school. Sorry.
Okay. Wars, instead it was, but the gentleman, Sirhan, said, I killed him with 20 years of malice aforethought. The kid grew up in a violent era, saw some stuff. Oh, okay, there you go. Thanks for posting that in chat. But my whole thing here is because he does go to California, he doesn't stay, and let me also put this out there because I think this is important. The reason that Sirhan wants to assassinate him is because he plans to send 50 Phantom fighter jets to Israel to help. 50 fighter jets in that time, in the 60s. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal because they don't have the anti-air capabilities to shoot these things down. So they're going to get slaughtered. And so he looks at that as, okay, this is my reasoning. And he had a diary and he wrote down how much he wanted to assassinate him, how much he wanted to get rid of him. So he shows up at this hotel. He is waiting, because once again, back then, security wasn't as tight. Security doesn't start increasing in our country until really the radio helped, but the camera is really what kicked security in full gear. So before that, you didn't have evidence of things like that. You had people that took pictures. There is a famous picture of him laying on the ground with a busboy next to him. One of the people he shook hands with. And what that shows us is that there's going to be a lot of information, hearsay, things like that. But what I found interesting was the woman in the polka dot dress. Supposedly it was a woman seen by different people that was yelling out when they left, we got him, we got Kennedy. Kind of pointing to more people involved, and I know Spider will probably bring this up with Kennedy, there's people involved. This isn't just like an assassination and it's done. It's a web of people involved in this. People like Jack Ruby, who is, there's a lot of mafia connections with Kennedy that weren't so much with, Robert F. Kennedy, which was more, I think, personally, a Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because diaspora is a very interesting concept, much like Zionism is a very interesting concept. Zionism is a more secular movement regarding the Jews in their own homeland. And that was a whole thing. So to have somebody like Robert F. Kennedy want to send 50 fighter jets into Israel to attack Palestinians, you see why. And I want to point something out. I know everybody has been discussing the situation going on in Gaza, but I think what we don't understand is that's deeper than just that event. There are multiple events across a wide timeline of genocidal acts that people don't talk about, that dwell in the Arab-Israeli war. It's a constant fight. It's a constant fight. So I just suggest people read more into it than just what you read today. Read what the cause is, everything that's happened. And I think that was the cause for him getting removed from the playing field. Maybe by people that had pro-Palestinian leanings that didn't want, because I want you to understand we're coming fresh off of World War II. World War II is only about 20 years old, less. So people have a memory of World War II. We don't have a memory of World War II. To us, it's just videos that we see. It's not directly influencing our mothers and fathers. It's not directly influencing us. But for those people that lived it, they're coming off of that. And there was a lot of distrust still from, regarding Jewish folks because of what happened in Europe, and they're leaving to go back, and the Holocaust. So it was a rough time. And so I believe that there were some issues with that, with whoever wanted him removed, because I don't think it's always just one person. There has to be ways and ends to go. See, James was affected directly. We were not. We were all born in the night. Well, not you at the bottom, but most of us were born in the 80s.
Ah, I thought you were going to say 90s.
So we only have them. We have some remnants of the Vietnam War from, grandparents and things. But for us, ours was the Desert Storm, Iraq.
Which has never really stopped either. It's just been Middle East, Middle East, Middle East, yeah. Middle East.
But that's what we know. So it's easier for us to point back to that era and pull it forward. So a lot of people didn't come home okay. But I think personally, and I got my information by reading about Zionism, by reading about his assassination, who he was as a person. I got that information from, and I didn't watch anything. Usually I watch stuff because it translates better to me. But I'm like, I can't find it. This is just about RFK's Senate grilling. So, and I wholly think that it had to do with that situation, because all points kind of lead to that. But the odd thing is the guy that supposedly shot him, not Sirhan, but his bodyguard, or the guy that was guarding him, he thought that RFK was too much of a communist. That word was very much thrown around because the Red Scare obviously was still going. The Red Scare was still strong, back then.
Was that when they decided that communism was worse than Nazism?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that's Cold War era things as well. Nazism and fascism, became communism.
Yeah.
People were afraid of fascism and Nazism, and then they were afraid of communism. And that didn't help back then, because communism in the United States, it was like a witch hunt, basically. It was a witch hunt. They were treated like witches. Even if you believed a little bit of it, you were treated like a witch.
Look at the Fallout games.
Exiled. Yeah, exactly. Because we were taught that the Soviet Union was the big bad. No, taught. I wouldn't say brainwashed. I wouldn't say brainwashed. Taught. That, because not everybody believed that. But for the most part, communism was the big bad boogeyman of that time. And I think a lot of that boiled over, so people compared that. However, a few Communist Party, like the radical ones, put Sirhan as their essential idol because of his pro-Palestinian, anti-Zionist leanings. So it's very interesting that in one case, did he get rid of him because he was a communist, or did he get rid of because of the Palestinian-Arab war? I think it's the latter. From what I've assessed, I think it's more to do with that, coming off of those things than it was anything else. Still shifted a major landscape from our history because I believe 100% he would have won the presidency. Because you have your brother who was assassinated, and here you are, still trying to carry on that name. And a lot of people liked Kennedy. So I think he would have won. But obviously he didn't. I think Nixon won that year. I don't remember. Anyways.
A quick point to make as far as brainwashing is concerned. A lot of times the word gets used a lot as far as when propaganda is used to influence opinion.
Yeah.
And while it can be tempting to just take that as that's the definition, if you influence opinion using propaganda, you're brainwashing people. The difference is whether there is an actual threat or not. The communists, before you get into that, the communists were a clear and present threat.
Yeah.
While we did blow it out of proportion here in the United States, and we did make it to be a bigger boogeyman than it might have been, they were still definitely a threat to much of Europe in the wake of World War II, because Stalin was not at all a nice guy. He was on par with Adolf as far as some of the atrocities that got committed in his region of control, his sphere of power. So the difference can be kind of a fine line when it comes to propaganda and trying to convince people one way or another. But generally, if there is a real threat involved, it's less likely that you would have to call it brainwashing to convince people to fight against it. Whereas if it's something that you're trying to manufacture, where something may not actually be as much of a threat as it was, and some of that did occur during the Red Scare, quote unquote. Some of it did become a level of brainwashing because they did start blowing it out of proportion to a point.
That's the part I was getting at, yeah.
But the communists at the time, with Stalin in charge, were definitely a threat to Europe and to potentially much of the world. Once that kind of fell apart and the Soviet Union started fracturing and he died, it became more brainwashing, I suppose, on some level than it had been, because they weren't as much of a threat anymore. Russia these days, I mean, people freak out about Russia all the time. And Russia is a boogeyman more than they are an actual threat. And yes, they have the nukes, and if it went to nuclear war, everybody's dead. But
everyone's scared of that.
As far as Russia being a significant danger to the United States, not really. Not really. You can see how much trouble they're having on a small scale in Ukraine. Ukraine is tiny compared to the whole of Russia. Okay, and I don't want to get into the politics of that right here, because that's for an entirely different show.
Thing. Yeah.
But just the fact that they have not been able to just go in and steamroll the whole thing, unless it's all been a ploy and it's all just a fake thing, which it possibly could be, not to ruffle anybody's feathers or anything. But unless they're deliberately making themselves look stupid by not steamrolling the whole thing, then Russia is not nearly as powerful as people like to say they are.
Now, I do want to say, too, to add to Spider's point, if you sit back and look at The Spy, one of the most fascinating times for spies was during the Cold War era. The Cold War era. One of the most fascinating times. You had double agents in the United States. You had double agents in the Soviet Union, because it was all about nuclear power. Remember, we are on the other side of Hiroshima and Nagasaki at this point. So now it's all about nuclear power. It's all about how much more deadly can we make this, and nuclear power as a whole. Because remember, if we look at Chernobyl was a disaster because Russia couldn't mimic what we were doing. Our reactors were they were well constructed. I won't point to 3 Mile Island. However, it wasn't on the scale that Chernobyl was. The RBMK reactors were built poorly, and they didn't calculate on the rods bouncing out of the reactor. Literally, the control rods were just jumping up and down.
Like you were talking about last time?
But by that time, it's too late. You're not getting out of there. It's gone. And now there is a big nuclear heap of metal that they've built a concrete structure over top because it's bad. And if that seeps into the water supply in the Ukraine, that's bad. That's that river. That. I think that's the Volga. Deadpool, look that up for me. Look at what the main river is in. I think it's Kiev. I want to say. I could be wrong. Try Chernobyl. So, looking on that and Dnieper. This, what is it?
Dnieper, Dnieper, is the main river that flows through Kiev, Ukraine's capital.
Is that near Chernobyl?
I don't know that part.
Find that out.
Okay.
Not to, because we got stuff to discuss.
Yeah.
Communism, like Spider said, was a very real threat. Like he said, Stalin and the whole of Russia. We forget Russia got splintered up into smaller countries. Russia as a whole is still a very large country, but it's not on the same scale. So the communism boogeyman today, I don't think exists. I think whatever they have going on today is more of a neo-communism than anything else.
Yes, it is the main river near Chernobyl. The Pripyat River also flows into the Kiev Reservoir a few kilometers south of Chernobyl.
Okay. Anyways, James set it up here. Let me. He thinks it's because of what happened to his brother. Didn't want those policies. I disagree. I think it was the Arab and Israeli war and the things to come of that. Because if we look at what the Middle East is today, a lot of that is influenced by that. Because remember, we're also, in this timeline, we're not too far from the fall of the Ottoman Empire either. The Ottoman Empire existed into the 1900s. So there's that. And the Ottoman Empire was vast. So it's deep. It's deep. So anyways,
are you suggesting? I was going to ask just real quick, are you suggesting that event actually had something to do with the fall of the Ottoman Empire? Or
No. Okay. The Ottoman Empire at that time was weak. It was nowhere near the Ottoman Empire of old. It was kind of stretched thin. Okay. The Ottoman Empire was a system that worked for that time, right? But when you get into the future where there's technology advancements and people think, oh, they didn't have computers. No, but different ways of travel, different ways of lighting, things like that. That world kind of told the Ottoman Empire it's impossible to exist here. You won't be able to make it. And so the Ottoman Empire essentially collapsed. There's still remnants of it in places like Turkey, but you're not going to find it worldwide anymore. So. Just something to think about. No, the Ottoman Empire wasn't what it was at that period in time. No, I think maybe the fall of the Ottoman Empire kind of,
the sick old man of Europe.
Maybe if things progress, but the Ottoman Empire wasn't about progression. It was about staying as what it was in its heyday and not going any further, not advancing. So no, this was because I have two types of people that just don't get along. We like to think, oh, it's this side's fault or it's that side's fault. It's two people that don't get along and they will fight. It's kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys. They're going to fight. That's how people are. Some people are like that. And if you look at the atrocities, if both sides are continuously committing atrocities, nobody's going to stop committing atrocities.
Pretty much.
You do something to me and mine, I'm going to do something to you and yours. That's it, And
nuclear escalation. It's the exact same principle. It's one side starts building up its arsenal, the other side starts building up. One side starts saying, well, if you do that, I'm going to push the button. And the other side says, well, if you push the button, I'm going to push the button. Oh,
like
let's not push the button.
And here's
exactly
the thing.
What it is.
That's what it is. If you push it, I'll push it. Well, if you push it, I'll push it. And then there's somebody else, and there's somebody else that's not even there that says, well, if you push yours, then I'm going to push mine. Now you've added another contender. And now India, Pakistan, all of these places that nobody really talks about the Pakistani India.
That's been raging for a long time.
They hate each other.
They are right on the edge of those buttons. Yeah. They're looking at each other. They got the nukes primed, and they're just like, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. Don't you make me angry.
And the border is right there. Their borders, they border each other, and they hate each other. So, if anybody I think would use it, it would be those two countries. Everybody likes to say Russia. I don't think Russia would use it. I
like to say North Korea.
I don't think we would use it. No. I think theirs would explode over their own country.
They wouldn't work. I mean, they always make these launches into the ocean, say, look how far we could go, but their whole
right
country
into the ocean.
Right into the ocean.
Their country is starving to death.
Yeah.
Like literally starving to death. They fertilize their farm fields with their own poo.
Yeah.
To be nice about it.
Their leader
keep it sanitized, and that gets parasites, and that gets whatever, and North Korea is essentially nobody. That they like to shout and they like to shake the sword and say we've got the nukes, we could use them, but they'll screw it up. Yeah. And the only thing is, people just want to make sure they don't screw them up in a way that screws anybody else up. That's the problem, because if they manage to get lucky, then they're gonna make a mess next door.
Pop culture time.
100%.
When they made the movie The Interview with Seth Rogen, they were threatening to launch nukes at us over a freaking movie.
I saw that.
I mean, you get that.
I saw that movie the day it came out.
Yep, I did.
I did that on purpose.
I did too.
I did that just to be like, okay, I'm gonna watch it because you guys are bricks. Feed your people. Feed your people. Anyways, I digressed. We did our tangent for the show. Yep. Spider, because we only have a little bit of time, about 13 minutes, about 23 minutes. Spider, give us your take on some JFK-ness.
I'm gonna give a quick rundown so that I leave enough time for Steven to finish up with Martin Luther King Jr. The Kennedy assassination, of course, is the one that people recognize the most. It's the one that's talked about the most. It's had numerous analyses and things going on with it for decades. It's estimated that a total of 42 different groups, 82 different assassins, and 214 different people have been accused at one time or another in various theories, which shows that no one has any idea exactly which one is the right one, because it's just 82 different potential assassins is a lot of different people.
Yep.
Even if a few of them were working together, that's a lot of suspects. And we've heard about a lot of the different evidence. We've heard about the Zapruder film, about the grassy knoll, about how there might have been a second gunman, and it's almost taken on a mythology level. To be fair, it's almost one of those things where when the answer does finally come out on what might have actually happened, if we can actually get the exact information, like this is what happened, this is the timeline, here's definitive proof, no one's going to believe it anyway.
Yeah.
People are still going to assume, oh, well, what about this? What about this? And you can tell them, well, there's evidence that says that didn't happen. Oh, yeah? Well, so-and-so is just covering it up. And I think that's where we're going to go with it. I'm interested in seeing what the documents tell us. At the same time, I feel like it's going to be like when they released the UFO files, and everybody was like, oh, we're going to find out about all the different things. And they had those congressional hearings.
It was
nothing. And when they released them, there was pretty much nothing. I mean,
It was
even the
redacted.
unredacted stuff, even like some of the unredacted stuff that was new was basically saying nothing.
Hey.
Well, nobody can place where he was at the time.
And I do look young for my age. Maybe I'm a vampire like Nicolas Cage.
No, not you, Robert.
But
the other Kennedy.
The thing about it, like I said, is this much time has gone by. So many people have analyzed the various parts of it. I think even some of the evidence by now is tainted, if not on purpose to feed the conspiracies, but through just so many people looking at it and messing around with it and examining it. I don't know if the evidence would even hold up anymore for any of the theories.
I mean, they even have a Mandela effect about it, about the car.
There's so much stuff going on with it, and the biggest takeaway, though, is it did inform presidential security for a long time after that.
Yeah.
And we got a little complacent. We got a little complacent with it with the last election cycle, as everybody knows, because they had the at least one for sure attempt on Trump and a couple that could have been possibles. Like those haven't been cleared up yet. But people started getting used to, oh yeah, we can go out and do these big rallies with thousands and thousands of people and everything, and nothing's going to happen. We've got all this security now because of that thing that happened. And it just goes to show that somebody can potentially always get through, and it's one single person. There's conspiracies about that too, which I'm not going to get into.
There are. I was just about to mention that too.
Yeah,
there's
because every time it happens, there's going to be something. It's never just as simple as one crazy guy.
When it could be a whole episode about
and
that.
Listen, until they prove one way or the other, you don't know. They really don't. So and I agree with you. Like, one way or the other. And I want to say something to your point. I think the media in and of itself, through all the countless theories, all the countless documentations, all the countless documentaries, it's all just one big circle of I don't know. It's, oh, this happened. But then there's always something that says, somebody says, the angle of this bullet proves that it couldn't have been this, that it had to be this. So I think by now everything is so blended together that it's hard to pick apart what the truth is and what the truth isn't.
It's all cloudy.
So I don't think it's as, I think that the whole thing with RFK, I think that was multiple people. I think that multiple people had. I think multiple people had a hand in that, because
I think even
a lot of those stories were matching.
I think even with JFK, there had to be some interplay with a couple of, at least a few individuals to get the setup, to get Oswald up where he needed to be, to actually take the shot, and for nobody to notice him up there and have the misdirection and things. So I think there is some truth to the idea that there is definitely something we don't know about the lead up to that.
Yeah.
But whether it's an actual grand conspiracy involving shadowy government figures and multiple organizations and the CIA and the FBI and all these different people, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever find that out for sure. I think that's always going to be basically urban legend at this point, whether it's true or not. Even if somebody comes out and says this is the definitive proof, it's true, I don't think it's going to stick just because.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I'm just going to say that the story around the event has outgrown the event itself, and there's no going back at that point.
As a person who read about Jack Ruby in his teens, it even gets worse. There's a whole mafia aspect to this too. There's the Marilyn Monroe aspect about this too. There's his proclivity with women.
He was a player.
That falls into this too. There's his issue with Cuba, communism, as we just talked about. I think there's a lot more factors involved in his than his
The Agent
brothers.
Orange issue?
Yes, that too. So I agree with you. I don't think we'll ever. I think we'll get closer to what happened to RFK than I ever think we will with JFK. 100%. 100%. Because from what I read in different articles, the conspiratorial aspects make sense. Anyway.
And who knows? Maybe the documents will come out and they'll have something actually earth-shattering in them, but I won't hold my breath.
Same. The day that happens is the day that I'll faint.
But that's yeah, go ahead. I've finished up here.
Okay. So I looked into a little bit of Martin Luther King. Now, we studied it briefly when I was in school, but not very many details, you know? They kind of glaze over that in school, I felt like. But basically, long story short, some people believe it might have been the Mafia, the Memphis Police, blah, blah, blah. But the real story, the cover story, as some people may believe, is they think it was done by someone named James Earl Ray, who had just recently gotten out of prison, and he was staying at a hotel across the street from where MLK was having his speech at. And, of course, there were a bunch of, legal issues with the whole race stuff going on and all that. And he had a politician friend. He had, some friends in high places is what we're getting at here, the point I'm trying to make. He had friends in high places, and they don't really know what happened. They think it was this dude, but as soon as he came out of the hotel, he went to the hotel and he was like, hey, this room isn't good enough, because he couldn't see MLK's room where he was staying at. And so he got a different room, and it still wasn't the best room, but he couldn't say anything else or it might raise suspicion. And long story short, he found a good place in the bathroom. He took his shot, and then when he walked out of the hotel, he saw cops right there on the street basically waiting for him. And some people think that was kind of weird how the cops were just magically there so quickly. He was arrested within 70 minutes of the act taking place, and they say it was also suspicious because they found the murder weapon literally with his fingerprints all over it right underneath the window he shot from. So there's a lot of interesting things going on there.
I want to say something. I think in all three of our cases, I think the person who actually did these crimes
might be the same person.
No.
Oh.
Are gone.
Ah, yeah.
I think they're removed from the playing field immediately.
Definitely.
In some form or fashion, they are removed. Whether it's by, like physically unaliving them, or whether it's by discrediting them so much that
that's number
they
one.
basically become, I don't want to say homeless, but on that line. Like you're driven so far into the ground, you can never come back.
Like when you mentioned that, you actually made me think, going back to the Trump thing earlier, one of the attempts on his life, I've found out that apparently the taller one, not the young dweeb dude, not the kid, but the other one, the tall dude, he supposedly disappeared and nobody's seen him since that happened. So that's fun. There's just a lot going on.
With Martin Luther King, I personally think that was because
he was trying.
There were some people in power that were very racist.
Yeah.
We can't deny racism exists. That's absurd. It does exist. And they didn't want this man who was like, hey, listen, we're all people. Like, what are y'all doing?
That was why they sent him
you're all stupid.
That was why they sent him the death threats and said they were going to bomb his house.
Yeah, because they were stupid. They were ignorant.
Yeah. They gave him
There's
3
no
days.
debate about that. There was no debate about that. You know? But once again, what are we coming off of? This is Jim Crow stuff. This is you're not a real person, and they want to be people. And
they wanted to bring Jim Crow law back.
You have these human trash, as I like to call them, that did not want that.
Yeah.
So for me, in that situation, that was 100% about racism. I don't think it was I don't think it was about anything else. And I think you had politicians that were 100% racist, and they're like, I don't want that. You know, that's not my this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
You know? So get rid of him. I think the same thing happened with Malcolm X too. But there's a lot behind that.
Because there was actually a politician that tried to call him in for a meeting to discuss things, and Martin Luther King didn't want to go because he was like, I don't want to go to the meeting just so he can tell me to shut up and be quiet, because I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So in that regard, yes. But I think, all of these were all at a tumultuous time
in history.
In the United States' history. The Vietnam War was an abject failure.
Oh, that's a good point, Wekos Jones.
Yeah, I knew that too.
Because they said they would tell his wife and send her recordings of that.
Yeah, I agree. A united people is a powerful force.
Yep.
They also tried to question his sexuality, which, once again, if you can discredit the person, they don't make him as much of a threat.
Exactly. That's actually one of the number one tactics in, like spy stuff and, all this stuff and the government, tracking down people. Their main objectives are either A, make you look crazy so no one will believe you. That's what they do with all the whistleblowers. Or B, make it look like a... But they can't... It's a lot easier to just make you look crazy.
Yeah, oh yeah. Because...
Then they don't have to explain what happened with the...
Well, you're creating a martyr.
Yeah.
They don't want a martyr. So they're like, this guy was off all kinds of drugs and jumping off of rooftops and pool parties.
Playing with knives.
Or they say you did this and that, But meanwhile,
deepfakes, AI technology is really far now.
They're the ones who are the actual perverts of society.
Yes.
We think that Rome changed. We just became the new Rome, to be perfectly honest. If you look at sports, it's breads and circus type stuff.
Yep.
I mean, talk to normal people about stuff like this. Ask somebody, what do you think about the RFK assassination or something like that? And then ask them about their favorite football player. And I guarantee you they'll probably talk more about their favorite football player than they will talk about any of these things.
That's the problem with this country.
I'm not saying it isn't. But that's why I also think that they won't. Because let me play devil's advocate of why not everything should always be released to the public. People are crazy.
Yes.
Okay? And if you tell them a truth that they don't want to hear,
they'll riot.
Think of religious extremists. If the government came out and said, yes, aliens exist, we have the proof, that undermines a lot of extremist beliefs. I could take that. I believe in God, and I would still take that they were aliens. I don't think that's an impossible thing. If there's an all-knowing, almighty God,
of course
he can create whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So that doesn't bother me, but there's people that it would bother 100%. Yep. And so they would start doing. Not everybody needs to know everything. And I point to social media as an example of that. Not everybody needs to know everything. And that's okay. I don't mind the disagreement. But if everybody knows everything, that creates a dangerous situation with extremists. And we live in a society at present day with a lot of extremists.
I think we need...
Or so we're told.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
You can find them. I found a few.
I mean, you're always going to find them, but they're more vocal than active. Yeah. You can get on social media and say anything you want.
For now.
Unless it has to do with real life and things that happen in real life. And then like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah, I've been censored many, many times for talking about secret government stuff.
But social media is so ridiculous to me now that all I care about is cool cat videos. Because I know how society is. And if you trace history, if you study history, you realize exactly why society is the way it is. This isn't the government's Trump. He's actually gotten people out of jail. Plus, this is from Go Now, exposing the past government, separating the government now.
Yep. I agree with Wekos on that.
I do not. And I will tell you why I do not. Because you still have lobbyists. And until they remove the lobbyists and the money, then I'll believe it. Because the money that is funneled through the government is bananas. Let's be honest, they basically launder money. They're the biggest money laundering enterprise in the United States.
Could I get your opinion on something real quick before we end the show?
Yes, I do know that was an executive action.
I wanted to ask about your opinion on the whole plane thing that just recently happened, because I heard that they got rid of a whole bunch of people at the FAA right before that happened.
That plane crash that happened, where was that, in Chicago?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know much about that. I haven't been looking into that.
I was going to look into that.
And I was about to, but then I want to start working on what I got coming out.
I think that's what I want to look into for this weekend.
Please do that. Please do that.
Yeah. Yes. Is that the one, Wecos?
There's been a couple like crashes.
I saw it, and they were talking
Chicago
about it.
was one of them, though, because people
they were talking about it on Fox News, and they were saying that the plane was like 500 feet lower than it was supposed to be, or something like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
was anybody who was on it?
I only saw it for like a brief second. I haven't actually watched any of the videos on it yet.
Find out who was on it and what they were connected to.
Yeah, because that would probably be important.
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
All I know is I've heard Chicago and DC. Now, I didn't know about DC.
I'll look into both of them.
Also, I would look into those fires too.
The ones in LA?
Look who stands to benefit
from
the fires.
I haven't gone out of my way to keep up with those, but I've seen a lot of people reporting on that and talking about it, and they defunded the fire department like over $17.5 billion before that happened. Like a whole bunch of money got defunded from the fire department, and they were trying to claim eminent domain on some of those properties, but it was taking too long. So there's a whole entire conspiracy theory out there that they started those fires intentionally just to burn down those homes and get it because they didn't want to sell their homes.
Look into that.
Okay.
Tell me, find out who is behind all of that, because if we can start pointing fingers and calling people out, that is our job.
That'll be a good one.
So we need to call these people out.
Honestly, I had thought about looking into the fires a couple of weeks ago, but I saw so many people looking into it already. I thought it might be oversaturation.
No, the time to strike is always when the event happens. That's when you want it. That's when you want it, the iron's hottest.
Yeah, what Wecos said.
I knew that too. Insurance policies got canceled during the hurricane.
Oh yeah,
that was supposedly redirected because of lithium mines and platinum mines. Yeah. So all of these things happening, I don't think is just a coincidence. I think there's something behind.
There's a lot going on.
Try to see if you can correlate
all of the stuff.
People on that plane with people that have vested interests in the land, retails, stockbrokers, all of that.
I haven't watched any videos on it, but I did see a post that said something about there were a lot of high-profile athletes on that plane. Like future athletes. So that might be something to look into as well.
See if these athletes have families that are in politics, land development.
Okay.
Because once again, if somebody wants something, they will make an example to show you that they want something.
Yeah.
So look into that and find out if these people are all connected. Because land is a premium.
Yeah.
And if you get rid of a whole blocks and blocks with a fire,
it's a lot of money.
Eminent domain, now you can start building stores,
houses,
Dollar Generals,
sports arenas.
So, no, I'm sorry. Dollar Generals only exist in country areas.
Hi.
As me and
Hi
Spider
from the country.
Me and Spider have seen a random Dollar General.
I got Dollar General over here.
I
literally
feel like
in the middle of nowhere, a farm field, just there.
What?
It was literally a farm field.
Yes,
and they made an entrance to it, and
I was driving.
The meme is true.
Oh wow!
Remember the spaghetti roads? Spaghetti roads of West Virginia, right? They put a Dollar General over there. I was running a corner. I'm like, I needed a dollar. I needed to stop, but wow.
Wow.
It's like now Dollar Generals are tulpas, and you can just form think, and boom, there's a Dollar General.
We're all tulpas. Only one human on this entire planet is real, and that's God. All the other humans are just tulpas created by God. So you weren't expecting that much sense right now, were you?
No, it's not. But thank you. I mean, it's good. God's the
original creator of all the other tulpas.
We're the AI.
Yep.
We're the AI of God.
Think about it. You learn like AI.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this stuff is very similar.
That's a pretty interesting Kingston, Jamaica shirt. I got to ask before we get off here. Are you into reggae music?
Yes. Is Bob Marley.
No, besides Bob Marley, do you listen to reggae music as a whole?
Not on a regular basis, but I've dabbled here and there. I've listened to a little bit of Damian Marley and some random people that I don't really remember, but I enjoyed their music.
Go listen to like King Tubby. Man, there's a whole bunch. I got into reggae about 10, 15 years ago.
Nice. Yeah.
Because of Mad Lib mixes, and also because of Grand Theft Auto 5 had its own reggae.
Yeah. Lil Jacob.
Yeah, so I got K-Jaw, so I got into a lot of that, and then I would branch off and listen to
dude, I would listen to that a lot.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Does anybody have any questions before we close the show down? Anybody got anything they want to say, complain about? We're gonna give you a couple minutes if you want to ask a couple questions. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'd like to complain about the weather. It's too cold. I don't like it.
It's not bad in Ohio, as me and Spider can attest to. It hasn't been as bad, but when you live in Ohio, because Ohio's a cold state, not Maine, Minnesota cold, but it's...
I mean, it's getting back up to the 40s, but it was down to like single digits for a while.
Not that kind of question.
Oh, Wecos. They come from the stork. Haven't you heard that story yet? Everyone knows they come from the stork.
And Steven is stork on his mother's side, so that's crazy.
Yes, you didn't know?
I don't think storks talk like that, but okay. My mom said Hades
talk however they want to talk. You be nice to the storks.
This show has devolved into this.
I think you mean derailed.
All right, Steven.
Okay,
Steven.
I'm done.
Calm it down, buddy. Sizzle it down.
You're a towel.
Oh.
See, I broke him.
Now we're done.
I broke him.
That's it.
Is that the code? Is that the code? No, it's the song "Take Me Funky Town."
Oh, Weko said babies come from Hades because he's evil.
Yeah, edgy.
Yep, I like
He's an edgelord. He's an edgelord.
See, Wekos likes the voices.
That's because they're in his head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why. We all have them, right? I think you two are just voices in my head.
Exactly. We're all voices.
Well, I've never met you, so you could be, but I've met him.
So you're Randy Orton now?
I am out of nowhere. So
voices in my head.
They talk to me, they understand. All right, relax. What do we got coming up? What do you two gentlemen have coming up? Go ahead, Steven. He's dying. Go ahead.
Just a
little.
Well, I'm not streaming right now, but once I get my internet up, when I get moved in, I will get back to streaming on a regular basis. But for now, I as we just discussed a minute ago, I'm definitely going to try to look into the LA fires, because I've already been looking into that just kind of casually. So I'm going to get deeper into that, and I'm going to look into these recent plane crashes.
Okay. Awesome. What do we, is that what you're discussing on Saturday's show?
Yes.
Excellent. And why don't you tell them about the Metal Gear stuff you dropped on your channel?
Oh, yeah. I made a Metal Gear Solid rant on my channel about the AI conversation and how I think it's very relevant to the current political situation of today. And I kind of started my own little podcast over there, Metal Gear Politics. So that's going to be fun.
Go check
it's got 53 views last I checked.
Nice.
Yeah.
He also, last week we did Uncanny Bites, and we got trolled in the comments. And we're real.
I I'm like, if you're getting trolled and making people that upset, you gotta be doing something right.
I loved it.
Yep,
I loved
great.
it. Just keep feeding the algorithm.
Yep. They were like, this guy's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for giving me 400 views. If I'm so stupid.
I was almost gonna fire off a comment, but I'm like, nah, no. Keep us in the algorithm. Yep. Thank you. Thank you to those 2 people who commented, by the way, for keeping us in the algorithm.
They brought us more views.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Spider, what do you got going on besides dying?
Well, I'm still streaming every night, roughly around 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I am not able to do commentary right now. I could, but it would be audio only with no video because my webcam broke, and I haven't been able to get a new one yet. But because it'd be weird, I think, to hear me talking and not see me talking as far as games are concerned, I'm just going no commentary. I'm currently playing.
I think that's a roast on me.
No, I'm just saying it seems like a weird thing for me because I don't, people tune in and be like, who's this jerk ball talking in the background?
Jerk ball?
What would they do? Just be watching the videos and be like, who is this ethereal voice coming?
Is that you, Jesus?
Since I'm doing that, I've got my Final Fantasy playthrough is paused because I have to comment through that because it's ridiculous sometimes because Cascade's a clown. And so right now I'm playing through the Backrooms that finally arrived on Xbox.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's called Dream Core. And it's only got 2 levels so far. It's got the pools and stuff, which I finished last night, and then Twitch screwed up and deleted the end of the video. So you won't see me end that series. I'm going to try to go back and do it again, but I don't want to go too far back because it's literally miles of just walking around and getting turned around. So once you get out, you're kind of like, yes, I don't want to go back. So I'll be doing the second level tonight, starting it. And we'll see how many days that takes, but it's been pretty fun. This one has no monsters for anybody who's watched the stuff. But
liminal space.
It's creepy. Like I went down this one hallway, like there was a big giant smiley face squeeze ball outside of a hallway. I passed it, went down the hallway. For some reason, I turned around and it had rolled over and was looking at me at the end of the tunnel. I'm just like,
oh no,
that is creepy. Yeah, like I felt properly creeped out a few times doing that. So it's still fun, even though it is just a glorified giant walking simulator.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm doing. And in a few days after the Royal Rumble shows up for WWE fans, I'll be doing another episode of the main podcast, The Show, where I'll be reviewing that, talking about various Trump things and all the other latest stuff that happens in the world.
I'm looking forward to the Rumble. It's about I only like that in Survivor Series. That's the only things I like.
I review the big things now. I don't review every single show and episode because it's just too much. But that's the big event. It's on Saturday. I probably won't see it till Sunday, and then I'll do.
Wait, it's this Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It's coming up quick.
That's crazy. I forgot about that. That's the end of January. I didn't realize it was the end of January, peeps.
Yeah.
It's the end of January.
Yep.
As for me, I will be continuing my playthrough of Yakuza 0 on Friday night. So come join me. I like the Yakuza games. It's a really nice action adventure. It's not the RPG ones. These are the just fight, which I enjoy. And the stories are actually really good. They remind me a lot of like the Yakuza movies from the 60s, like Japanese cinema in the 60s. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of like a Japanese cinema, but like in the 80s. It talks about the 80s and it shows how like it progresses during the rest of them. So I'll be doing that. And then I am busy working on my channel, Robert the Theologian. You can find me over there on YouTube. I have just read and recorded the first chapter of Genesis. Now I'm just trying to think of a way that I want to make it into a video. And I also want to 100% figure out how to do the closed caption where it shows the words too. I might just have it scrolling, but I got to figure out how to make it scroll so that people can follow along.
Post that link back up in the chat again for people.
Appreciate that. Thank you, by the way. So if you don't see me have posting any videos right now, I just started. I literally created it yesterday. I told the guys in chat, and they were like, about our time. They said it like that.
Literally.
He sounded like Foghorn Leghorn when he said it, though. Spider did. He's like, it's
damn time,
Darn.
It's about
Boy,
it's
boy,
about
I say
damn
boy.
time.
Boy,
Boy,
I
it's
say.
about damn time.
It's about time.
So that's what I will have going on, and yeah. So look forward to all of our future projects and things, and we appreciate you guys staying after the show with us to listen to us talk about rants. But I know Deadpool's going to chop up some of this and put it out as reels, which is a good idea. He's our real guy. He creates our amazing reels, so we appreciate him for that.
Definitely not fake.
And yeah, definitely. we're not deep fakes. These aren't AI generated images. If they are, this AI is terrible.
AI ugly.
So anyways, why be boring when you can be uncanny? We will see all of you amazing people next week for a brand new episode. So until then, peace.